Dr. Ruben from East West Healing Performance. Today I want to talk about I'm questioning sugar. You know, over the past 10 years as we learn and we have this business, we grow as we learn, or we learn as we grow, however that may go. And we work with clients. We see what works. We see what doesn't work. We see how things are taken out of context. And we see how what we're really talking about is not what we're talking about. So if I'm not making any sense, then good, because I'm not trying to make sense. But what I want to talk about is sugar. Now, when I say sugar, I'm talking more about the fruits, the fructose, talking more about your squashes, your below-ground vegetables, and I'm talking about your sucrose. Not high fructose corn syrup, maltose, dextrose, all that stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. So I want to, really get specific in what I'm talking about. And why I'm kind of questioning people are saying, well, sugar is bad for us. Well, the funny thing is, if you really look at the ingredients of most things, there's really not sucrose in a lot of things. Everyone says, oh, there's tons of sucrose in Coke. Coke is mostly high fructose corn syrup. And the last Coke that I looked at on a shelf had no sucrose in it. And everyone says, well, there's 17 tablespoons of sugar in it. Well, the funny thing is, I didn't see 1 teaspoon or microgram or whatever unit we want to use. And it's interesting because, our industries are using different types of sugar. They're not using sucrose. They're using high fructose corn syrup and all these different types. So the question is it really the ingesting of too much sugar that's causing a problem? Or is it not enough sugar from vegetables, fruits, or a balance that's creating a deficiency? Now, the important thing about sugar in the body, one of the most important things, it's a fuel for our body, and it actually helps to stimulate our metabolism to bring us to a metabolic efficiency. So we're producing enough oxygen and CO2 in the body to stimulate the thyroid, because in order to get T4 to T3 conversion, you need glucose. You store sugar in the liver as glycogen to produce energy when needed, when you're running or you're doing whenever you're doing, in order for your body not to go into a stress response, to basically break its own tissues down, which is a catabolic response, which can lead to more blood sugar issues. So the question is, really getting at, is it too much or is it not enough that's causing our problems in society that we're seeing? One thing about sugar that people talk about is they say too much sugar causes acidosis. Acidosis causes bicarbonate retention. This increases CO2 production in the body and stimulates a more rapid breathing rate, heart rate, pulse, increases body temperature in order to alkalize the pH of the body. Well, the interesting thing is, if you really break that down and you start researching people, such as Ray Peat, and a lot of people that he actually references, over 100 different references, they talk about how eating sugar, the right types of sugar, and increasing CO2 production in the body is actually metabolically efficient. If you look at an infant when it's born, its pulse and temperature are typically higher than your average, human, like adult. The respiratory rate is actually more rapid because they're actually producing more CO2, and they're actually at a metabolic efficiency where the thyroid and everything's working properly. As we age, because of stressors, not eating the right foods, not eating enough sugar, maybe eating the wrong types of sugar, dieting, you name it, our body goes into a stress response, and this stress response releases hormones that downregulate the thyroid, deplete glycogen stores, and exacerbate blood sugar fluctuations over time. So the bottom line is we get a slowing of the thyroid. We get a slowing of our metabolism, so we get a slower heart rate, a lower body temperature, and if you don't believe me, go take your pulse rate. Most people say a low pulse rate is healthy. Well, go take your pulse rate at rest. You might find 40 or 50. Go take your body temperature. What we're seeing is most people are below 97 even, or at 97. That's not normal. That doesn't mean you're healthy. That means your metabolism is actually slowed down. So one of the things that's interesting about sugar and CO2 is CO2 production actually downregulates serotonin. Now, serotonin in the body is actually excitatory. It can demyelinate the nerves. It can increase adrenaline production. It can lead to anxiety. It can lead to vascular leakiness, edema, varicose veins, fibrosis, increased estrogen levels in the body it can lead to, which can cause cell proliferation, lead to cancers, increased prolactin levels, which can lead to osteoporosis because prolactin actually causes the body to leach calcium out of the bones. So when you use CO2, you know, Repeat talks about this in actually one of his articles. He talks about how when animals hibernate, they actually start producing a lot of CO2, so serotonin can actually go up, which actually creates that hibernation effect, that sleeplessness, or that the sleep that they go into, the lack of appetite. So increased CO2 increases metabolism, appetite, energy, and decreased CO2 actually increases serotonin, which increases depression, which will increase lack of appetite, that feeling of hibernation. So the funny thing is, people say CO2 is bad and sugar is bad. Well, the question is the increased sugar important to increase the CO2, to downregulate serotonin, to downregulate estrogen, to downregulate adrenaline, to actually stimulate the thyroid? Because if you don't, and you have these high adrenaline levels, that can create hypoglycemia. It'll actually cause the body to not convert glycogen into glucose. And because you're not getting energy, it'll actually cause the liberation of fatty acids from your tissues or your muscles as energy. And if those fatty acids in your tissues are polyunsaturated, that's just going to exacerbate the stress cycle, increase cortisol and adrenaline, downregulate the thyroid, create hypoglycemia, increase serotonin, prolactin, estrogen, you name it, which is going to lead to basically everything I'm saying. So let's get back to the main issue here. Is it too much sugar or lack of sugar that's causing a problem?